Welcome back to Aesthetics Magazine. Discover more skincare resources at aestheticsmagazine.com. In this episode, we are going to describe how SPF measures sun exposure. Sun protection factor, or SPF, is a measure of how well a sunscreen will protect the skin from UVB rays, the kind of radiation that causes sunburn, damages skin, and can contribute to skin cancer. Now, let's break down what that actually means. If it takes 20 minutes for your unprotected skin to start turning red, using an SPF 15 sunscreen theoretically prevents reddening 15 times longer, about 5 hours. This is assuming that the sunscreen is applied uniformly and in the proper amounts, which is about 2 milligrams of lotion per square centimeter of skin. Most people don't apply sunscreens correctly, however. As a result, the actual time spent in the sun with SPF 15 protection is probably less, and it's even less for higher SPFs. In practice, this means that high SPF users are likely to get much more sun exposure than they think because they use the sunscreens improperly and infrequently. This gives people a false sense of security because they assume that their high SPF sunscreens will provide all-day protection, leading them to stay out in the sun longer and skip reapplying the sunscreen every few hours as is necessary. A properly applied coat of SPF 15 sunscreen blocks 93% of UVB rays, SPF 30 blocks 97%, and SPF 45 blocks 98%. The increase in UVB protection is even more marked between higher SPF sunscreens. For example, there is only a 6% difference in blocking ability between SPF 15 and SPF 50. However, the FDA has statutory authority to require sunscreen companies to provide more data on the absorption of sunscreen active ingredients. For new sunscreen active ingredients, the FDA will require applications with the following data on UVA/UVB protection: critical wavelength, the wavelength where the total absorbance of the sunscreen in the UVA spectrum is 90% of the maximum, the ratio of UVA to UVB protection, as measured by the persistent pigment darkening (PPD) method. The sunscreen PPD value will then be submitted, and the agency will require that the company select a UVB protection test method that has been endorsed by the FDA and the National Institute of Standards and Technology. An important ATF data is the measurement of the SPF of a substance. This data is obtained by exposing a group of 10 to 25 subjects to a measured dosage of ultraviolet radiation, UVR, on their backs and buttock. The thickness of the substance is usually adjusted for spreadability on the skin. Then, the subjects are exposed to light from a xenon arc solar simulator with a UVR photon flux of known magnitude. From this data, a curve of UV transmittance or absorbance of the substance can be generated, and the values are averaged to obtain the SPF number. The average is multiplied by a factor that is unique for each country, and that value is rounded to the nearest 5 or the nearest integer that is greater than 5. For example, the SPF measured in Japan is multiplied by 0.76 and then rounded. This data collection method is significant because it accurately reflects the substance's capability to absorb UVR when in use, which is the main function of the substance. Hence, this method of measuring SPF is a more practical approach, as compared to the older methods which measure the absorption of UVR over the whole solar spectrum and took at least 2 hours of data collection on a clear sunny day. It is important to note that the protection given by the substances is not uniform. For example, if a product gives good protection against UVB radiation but not against UVA radiation, it can also claim for the protection only against UVB rays, and the broad-spectrum protection in the labels cannot be used. Also, this method applies the best protection rating only to the products that have been tested and have been found to give a minimum 90% UVA protection as well as the UVB protection, and can then claim these products provide broad-spectrum protection. Such claims and labeling can give people a clear indication of what type of protection they will get when choosing a sunscreen, and to understand these labels can help everyone to choose the right sunscreen for different activities. Most high SPF products actually only provide minimal added protection. For instance, SPF 50 is not a product that is anywhere near 50 times better than an SPF 1. One study from the US found that there wasn't a huge difference between the protection offered between SPF 50 and 100. SPF 30 sunscreen is thought to offer the optimal protection, Marina Pareto, a dermatologist, told Time magazine. SPF 30 blocks nearly 97% of UVB rays, SPF 50 blocks 98%, and SPF 100 blocks 99%. Anything beyond that provides only a small incremental increase and a false sense of security. Dr. Anjali Mato, a consultant dermatologist and British Skin Foundation spokesperson, explained that many people do not apply sunscreen properly and are not actually getting the SPF that's on the bottle. Since many people apply sunscreen too thinly, using a product with a high SPF may help to achieve the protection stated on the bottle, she said to The Independent. However, Dr. Mato emphasized it is still always best to apply liberally and reapply regularly, regardless of the SPF. She also added that people obsess with high SPF ratings but don't check the UVA rating, whereas UVA protection is clearly marked with a star system. UVA radiation can penetrate deep in the skin and affect the skin's aging and defense system. But despite the high SPF values, the research concluded that they do not guarantee complete protection from harmful rays. Dr. Mato told The Independent, "I think it is important to remember that no sunscreen offers 100% protection. Thanks to the approval of the FDA ruling, manufacturers are compelled to provide the proper understanding of SPF to the general public so as to prevent myths like double protection. Nonetheless, higher SPF selection does not give any added value to the health protection. Infomercials have taken advantage of this and repeatedly reminded people that higher SPF moisturizes better, lasts longer, and must be used in a lesser amount. It is really pointless and a waste of money to use high SPF sunscreen if the purpose is to protect the skin from the sun's harmful rays. Well, maybe not really pointless because your beauty companies are raking it in assisted by these swindles. Let's put the record straight about SPF. SPF measures how long a person can stay in the sun without getting burned when applied in the correct amount. For example, if someone applies SPF 30, it allows the person to stay 30 times longer in the sun before starting to burn. If the skin starts to burn generally after 10 minutes under the sun, by using SPF 30, they can stay up to 300 minutes, i.e. 30 times longer. 300 minutes can be well translated to 5 hours of sun exposure, and that is long enough for any outdoor activities. This time translation concept has also been established and recognized by many skincare researchers and government agencies, including the American Academy of Dermatology and Skin Cancer Foundation. Many scientists have known for decades that SPF 30 can provide complete blocking for the entire UVB region, and that includes even for some of UVA, so does SPF 80 or even 90 as well. Most people do not know how to interpret different SPF levels and have some misconceptions about it, such as by having twice the amount of SPF 30 on the face helps to extend the protection time 2 times longer. However, in reality, to try to get double protection, one needs to apply the sunscreen 4 times of the amount usually used. But who can ever know what is the doubled amount if one doesn't even know what is the normal or single amount to start off with? The importance of SPF in sun protection cannot be overstated. According to dermatologists, up to 80% of aging effects of the sun can be avoided if a sunscreen with a sun protection factor of 15, the minimum level that should be used as well as the minimum for any efficacy, is applied daily. Dr. Dralos said the Skin Cancer Foundation highly recommends sunscreens with SPF 15 or greater. She stated, "These have been shown to reduce the risk of skin cancer and early skin aging as well as help prevent sunburn." The benefit of high SPF values is limited for most people. The higher SPF sunscreens do give you a little bit of a wider range for the UVB, but in reality, nobody applies sunscreen as thoroughly as they should, and so what we end up finding is that their SPF value goes down. For your face, it's about a half a teaspoon. For your entire body, it's about a shot glass. And so what I find in my practice is that the people who use high SPF often use a thinner amount, the people who use lower SPF often use a thicker amount, and then they end up with the same protection. The main benefit of higher SPF is the reduced likelihood of reapplication. We're talking about 2 types of damages when we're talking about skin cancer. We're talking about DNA damage to the cells, and over time, mutations can happen and constant reapplying of sunscreen can regularly expose and injure the skin. Discover the natural power of vitamins with this new book, Understanding Vitamins in Skincare by Greg Rishaw. Learn how vitamins can nourish, protect, and renew your skin, all while embracing a healthy, balanced approach. Get your copy today and uncover the secrets to natural ingredients. Understanding Vitamins in Skincare is available now on Amazon.com.